Hi, I'm Karen Tate, author of Goddess Calling, Inspirational Messages and Meditations of Sacred Feminine Liberation Theology. And if you're listening to this, you found the audio book series of Goddess Calling. And today's special message is from Chapter 10, called Crossroads and Pathways. So sit back and get comfortable, and I'll share it with you right now. When we think of the crossroads, we might think of that intersection between life and death, where the veil between the worlds is thinnest. Tate is standing there with her lantern, helping us see or feel that connection with our departed one on the other side. Yet there are many kinds of crossroads where Tate is standing, lighting the way forward, so we make progress, evolve, and grow. To do that, we must take stock of where we are and where we're going, because our lives are not meant to stagnate. It was Herodotus that said, the sistrum, sacred instrument of Isis, Bast, and Hathor, was shaken to keep the energies of the universe flowing. Yes, we also want the energies in our lives to move and dance so they do not become mired down, immovable, stuck, or dead. Water teaches us a similar lesson. Water, not constantly moving, becomes stagnant and unhealthy, where no life thrives. However, that said, let us not dismiss the idea of marinating a bit at the crossroads, taking a deep breath before we step forward this way or that, and grounding ourselves, getting our bearings, carefully considering before we begin to move ourselves, our life, and our family, and commit to a specific direction or goal. You certainly do not want to leap out of the frying pan and into the fire, as my mom used to say. You don't want to be impulsive or move just for the sake of moving. Running willy-nilly here and there without a plan or focus just for the sake of doing something, well, that's not the best plan either. Only you can check in with yourself and decide if you're stuck, though, if you're being too complacent, if you're tolerating a situation that's not really working. And if you are, perhaps in denial about circumstances, or, maybe you're just not paying attention. This means bad habits, too. Are we stuck in the habit of not exercising, or perhaps like me, eating too much sugar and not eating my broccoli? Maybe you're hanging around toxic people who don't support and nurture you. Are we letting people fill our heads with donkey-dung? Are we stuck in a rut when it comes to our thinking and never evolving when new information comes our way to help us change? Liberals are fond of joking about the right-wing bubble that facts don't penetrate, leaving those inside living in their own reality. The Broadway play, The Book of Mormon, highlighted this disconnect from reality when mentioning some of their irrational or nonsensical beliefs. But proudly, the singers explained, Mormons just believe anyway. Dare I say, we have to be careful of the same thing? Yes, we're the cognitive minority, the ones blazing the trail of new thought, or old thought that's resurfaced and is new again. Yes, we're blazing the trail with our pink-handled machetes, but sometimes we might get stuck in patterns of thinking too. Maybe it's about how our body looks. How do we see ourselves in the world? Do we have healthy self-esteem? How do we react to life's challenges? How do we habitually deal with our parents or siblings? How do we respond when we're questioned or judged? Are we separating the truth from the myths? What we resist persists. When I heard that, I could immediately relate. It seems the universe keeps sending similar challenges until you see what needs correcting and correct it. I'm no longer ashamed to say about 20 years ago I had self-esteem issues. I was told by a group of women that I was not their peer, their equal. I didn't stack up to them. For a time, I let them define me. They beat me down so badly I was afraid of my own voice, literally. For quite some time during and after this, it seemed like everything, tarot readings, affirmation cards, situations with people, kept relating to issues of self-esteem. It caused me to dig out that metaphoric mirror and do some reflecting. At first it was, Why does this keep happening to me? In time, I realized these challenges were defining me. The challenges literally caused me to ask myself if I knew who I was and wanted to be. Did I have something to say, and would I stand up and say it, or become a hairball in the corner? In time, I did find my path, my backbone, and realized those women were wrong. I had something to say and lots to offer. I wanted to be her sacred roar. I was not going to be a sheeple sitting at the feet of my oppressors. I was not going to conform to who they wanted me to be. I was going to find out who I was and how I might serve on my own terms. In that process, I not only discovered myself, but I found out what I wanted in friends and community too. It was not easy. It didn't happen all at once. It was a process of pathways and holding patterns. Of course, there was the fear and pain of uncertainty at times. These women were my best teachers, and I believe I see Goddess's hand in those women's cruelty. They forced me to find myself. What did not kill me did make me stronger. I managed not to stay stuck, wasting my life and my potential. Sometimes we have to take a risk, even if it's uncomfortable, because the devil we know is not always better than the devil we don't. I can relate to all these old cliches now. Risk and choices, those are always at the crossroads and pathways. My husband and I took a risk moving from New Orleans, leaving everything we knew. We left our friends, our jobs, and the neighborhoods we knew and grew up in for the hope of something better. You have to calculate your risks. Obviously, your choices have consequences, no matter what we're talking about. Partners, spirituality, vacation destinations, your diet, career, friends. Maybe you know someone full of fear and disappointed because they never challenged themselves. Most of the people I grew up with are like that. They live and die, rarely traveling 50 miles beyond where they live. They exhibit no intellectual curiosity, no desire to live outside their box. My dear mother was a conundrum. She taught me to go out and get what I wanted, but she was very afraid when I left New Orleans. If it were up to her, I would never have stepped foot outside the United States. For some, that might be living. For me, that would be a sure death by stagnation. You really stand at a crossroads of sorts every day when you're conscious of it or not. In some aspects of your life, you will sit and marinate because it works perfectly for you. That might represent itself in a long-term marriage or partnership or city where you choose to live. It might represent a commitment to being in school and studying a while to change careers. That's okay if this holding pattern is serving or nourishing you. I've had the same job, for over 20 years, but it suits my purpose. I can make more money, have more status doing something else, but I choose to do what I do so I can feed my passions outside work. I see this as choosing a path that offers a certain quality of life over a path that might have provided more financial reward. We make these kinds of choices throughout our lives. Just be sure to take stock periodically. Do uncomfortable patterns keep repeating themselves, calling for you to look at them and do something different? There's wisdom in that other cliche, the one about doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome, which is insanity. Check in. Don't get stuck in denial. Pay attention and be self-aware. See if you have become mired down in something that's not good for you. You might realize it's time to take a leap of faith. You've probably figured out I'm a movie buff and find some life lessons in films. Here's another one. Remember the Indiana Jones movie when he's standing before the chasm within that temple in Petra, Jordan? He is, of course, terrified because he's being called to step where there is no visible path. Ever feel like that? Well, Indiana steps forward because he knows there's no going back, and suddenly a path presents itself. Life's crossroads and pathways might feel like that sometimes. New things always do. So when you feel stuck, when you feel shoved, when you know something is not working, Look for that beam of light Hecate is shining before you. You will find your way. Thank you for listening to the Goddess Calling audiobook series.